welcome to Connect MKE. I'm your host, Denise Calloway. School is back in session, and there is a lot going on in public education in Wisconsin. It all impacts what's happening in our classrooms and to our young people. Let's learn more about the opportunities and challenges facing our public school teachers and students from Dr. Jill Underley, Wisconsin State Superintendent of Public Instruction. Welcome back to Connect MKE, Dr. Underley.
Thank you so much, Denise.
Thank you for being with us.
Absolutely.
A new school year always seems like a fresh start. What are you excited about for Wisconsin students and teachers as a new school year begins?
I'm always excited about the first day of school, and it is a fresh start. I mean, lots of kids, you think about it, might be going to a new grade a new school district or a new building. So it's an exciting time for teachers, meeting new teachers, making new friends. And the kids are, of course, what makes this job so rewarding. So really excited for them. We've been in schools already, and the kids are very excited to be back. Meeting their friends again, meeting new teachers. But as you said, yes, there are challenges certainly going forward. We are looking at teacher and staff shortages. And when I talk about staff, I'm talking about bus drivers. I know that's been in the news lately. We know mental health is still a concern, not just among teachers, but also among parents. We got some help in that area from the budget, but not nearly enough. But we know our schools will rise to the challenges. They always do.
When you talk about those shortages, that means that some schools are starting the school year without all the teachers and paraprofessionals that they need to get every classroom with a permanent teacher in front of them. What are some of the things that can be done to kind of fill that gap?
Sure. So the system really is just out of alignment with our values. Individuals who want to go into teaching because they care about the public good, they care about kids, they believe in public service and public education, and there's this confluence of issues. For example, with the employment picture in other sectors. In times of tight employment in the private sector, they're able to grab people from the public sector. Teachers have lots of transferable skills, for example, because they have college degrees. Our licensing data is telling us that in Wisconsin, it's a retention issue, that teacher retention rates are only 67% after the first 5 years in the profession. So that means that a third of teachers or licensed teachers left the state or the profession altogether. And that's unacceptable. And when I talk about the system being out of alignment with values, we have to look at compensation. We have to look at pay. I mean, these are individuals with lots of education, really great skills, people skills, and we need to look at compensation. We need to look at benefits. We need to look at working conditions if we're going to be able to keep them.
What's it going to take to do that? Because, teachers are hired by individual school districts. Some school districts have offered some raises and increases over the past year or so, but there's still some places where teachers just really are finding themselves kind of stuck financially when you take a look at the rate of inflation and what they're being paid. What can be done to address that on a broader scale when so much of this is decided at the local school district level?
Right. Our local school districts certainly need more revenue. I mean, it's a profession, or I should say our education budgets are a profession of people. Like we spend 80% of our budgets on human resources and, employing people to be in classrooms with kids or working in schools to serve the kids and make the schools run. So it's a very human resource dependent type of industry. So our school districts need that spendable revenue that comes from the state. And when we haven't had those increases, and you think about it, having not kept up with inflation for at least the past 10 years, our school districts have really suffered. And so that's where they end up not putting more money. I mean, they take money from other areas in order to keep up with cost of living or the increase in benefits and retirement, but they're not able to keep up with the rate of pay. Some districts can. There are some districts that are, in better shape. They have higher property values. They're able to raise more revenue. And so they're able to pay more for their teachers. And so what we're finding is that we have a system of have and have not school districts. You could just drive down the highway and you can see that. You could see it in facilities. You can see it in who's attracting the best teachers, for example. So there's other pieces too, and that we have to address. I mean, the cost of housing, for example, in some of our communities, our teachers can't afford to live in the communities where they teach. And that's an issue as well. There's a housing shortage, especially for like starter homes. So we have a lot of work to do on a lot of fronts, but it really comes from the state being able to put more revenue in the system for schools so that they can pay people for their worth.
When you look at that 67% retention rate, money is part of it, but there are other factors too that influence individuals' decisions to not stay in teaching, to get out of teaching.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you have to look at the work-life balance of teachers as well. So, for example, you think about a teacher, maybe an elementary school teacher or a high school. Elementary teacher goes in, works from 7:30 to 3:30 or 4, oftentimes later, goes home, maybe has kids of their own at home, but also then is using that time in the evening to grade papers, right, or to plan the next day's lesson, and they're never off the clock. I know so many high school teachers, for example, who put in hours throughout the school day and then are coaching after school, and then working second jobs. So really, if you were to transfer them to the private sector, you don't have all that. You put in your time, you go home, you can spend time with your family, make dinner, do all that fun stuff that you do with your families in the evenings, not have to be on the clock all the time. And so work-life balance is a big deal. It's exhausting is what I will say for a lot of our education professionals.
How do we begin to change that? How do we begin as communities then to create those circumstances where there are better work-life balances for teachers? Because I think we can all agree that we want people who are highly qualified teachers to stay in the profession and teach our kids.
Yeah, it's really, again, like the system, again, is just out of alignment with values. You think about how we operate a school. Most schools operate with one person in front of a classroom of kids. And then that person, especially in elementary school, is with those kids all day. There's no time for breaks. There's no time, to really catch your breath. And then what we see is that's the same model that we've been operating on for at least 100 years. And we need to really rethink how we deliver instruction. There's nothing that says that that's the best way to teach kids. But again, it's a human intensive type of profession. If we wanted to have teams of teachers in a classroom where then you have, let's say, 24 kids and 2 teachers or 3 teachers, those teachers can trade off, break kids up into small groups. One teacher can leave and go meet with parents, or another teacher could stay behind and talk with another teacher about student data and what's working for a kid in literacy. But we really have to rethink the delivery of instruction. But again, adding more bodies into a classroom is more money, and we need the funding in order to be able to do that.
So, as superintendent of public instruction, how would you look at ideally setting up that delivery of instruction, that system, so we maximize both the time and energy of educators, but we're also making sure that we're meeting the needs of young people, because not in every case is there necessarily a great match between the way a teacher teaches and the way a young person learns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've been experimenting with this for a while. It's just that it takes time to change these things, and like I said, the resources to make these changes. When you think about connections that the adults make with kids in the classroom, we make sure that in our school buildings that every kid has an adult that they feel connected to, an adult that they feel, safe, that they can talk to. And it's the kids that don't have that adult are the ones that we lose sleep over, right? So certainly making sure that we have the right adults in the building, connecting with the kids, ensuring that we have mental health professionals in our schools. So it goes beyond just teaching, right? We want to make sure we have school social workers and counselors. We want to make sure that we have individuals who focus on curriculum, individuals who are interventionists for literacy and math. And the reality is that when we talk about funding and we talk about school finance, there are some schools that are able to do this because they have that additional financial resource, and they are providing these kinds of things. This is the next generation of how we staff schools. It's just that the schools in Wisconsin, there's so many of them who are just scraping by, right? They're scraping by referendum to referendum, and they can't afford these extras. They can't afford instructional coaching. They can't afford curriculum coordinators or literacy coaches. And those are the types of places where we certainly need to make sure that they get those resources so that those students in those communities are not denied those opportunities.
I want to shift gears just a little bit. One of the things that did happen in addition to the increased per pupil amount that's available to schools now is the state is picking up a little bit more of the cost for educating special education kids, going from roughly 30% of the cost being paid by the state to now 33%. Is that enough? Does the state need to provide additional support for those young people in our schools who have special needs?
It's really pitiful when you think about it. They're putting 33% of the cost for every dollar of services, the state is reimbursing the school district 33 cents. And when you think about the cost of services for special education, it's not just instruction. Lots of kids are getting special education who may not get it for instructional reasons. I'm talking about like speech and language. Lots of kids in elementary school see a speech therapist, occupational therapy, physical therapy. Those are all parts of special education, not just when we think about classroom instruction. And those services are expensive. And it's really, like I said, pitiful. And we really wanted this for our schools. It's a fund or revenue that would help all the school districts in Wisconsin. I think people have said that, well, schools are going to identify more kids for special education, which is simply not the case. We meet kids where they are. We get them the services that they need so that they can be successful. And the state has an obligation to be able to provide a free and accessible public education to all kids. And so the fact that they only pay back 33% to districts is really unfortunate and sad. Because when you think about it, then those school districts have to take money from other things in order to make that balance out at the end of the year, because it's required that that fund is balanced and it's not in a deficit. So school districts are taking money from other programs. They're taking money from facilities. They're taking money from, teacher raises. I mean, it's really unfortunate that our state does not put a value on every kid that's the same.
One thing that's going to be happening in schools across the state this year is that the legislature approved a new reading curriculum. It's got a phonics focus to it. So that's a heavy lift.
And I'm excited about it. It's really, I think it's been overdue. I'm excited because there's funding for it, which hadn't been the case before. And so this gives us an opportunity to really do it well. Not only guide districts in being able to select curriculum that has phonics and has evidence-based instructional practices, but also be able to provide coaching to the school districts so that their school teachers are then able to implement the literacy programming.
Dr. Underly, lots going on in public education in Wisconsin. We wish you and all of the educators and students in our schools a great school year. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Denise.
Coming up, we'll learn about a new program that's teaching kids real-life money lessons. Stay with us.